Hi folks, Vipin here. Once again reminding you all in the upcoming Lok Sabha elections, please do vote for Narendra Modi. If you want change, if you want development, voting for Narendra Modi would be the wisest thing that you can do. Okay. Now moving on to today's topic, that would be Kingfisher Airlines and why the airline did not succeed. Now before I get into the details of Kingfisher, I would like to remind you all that apart from Indigo Airlines in India, all the other airlines are doing pretty badly. Like if you refer to even Air India, the government run airline, even Air India happens to be doing pretty badly. Jet Airways is doing badly, and all the other airline companies in India are doing badly. So Kingfisher is one among them which did badly, and it became so bad that the airline actually had to shut down. So let's not legally shut down, at least technically speaking the airline is grounded. So let's look at the reasons why this actually happened. Now remember, this analysis is purely my point of view. I will not be getting into the financials in detail. I will not be explaining the whole government taxes, all the other indirect effect it had, but nonetheless the major causes is what I'll be talking about. So let's look at what really happened. Now firstly, why was the airline actually created? Now if you look at any business, the purpose for which it was created is in fact the very foundation of the business. Now for example, I started my website vipinmks.com because I wanted to make education for students easier. I did not do vipinmks.com out of a bet so that I can win against my friend. The reason for which I did was so that I can benefit some students or even hopefully benefit society with what I was doing. So the very basic reason why Kingfisher Airlines was started was because Vijay Mallya wanted to gift his son something really expensive for his birthday, and hence Kingfisher Airlines was born. Believe it or not, the airlines was actually a gift for his son's 18th birthday. I think it was in 2005 or 8, I get confused with the years, when Siddharth Mallya happened to turn 18. That's when Vijay Mallya decided to go about giving him an airline as a present. Talk about making someone into a spoilt brat, and now you go about giving an entire airline to them as a gift for their birthday. So this is one reason. Of course, the very fundamental as to why they actually started the airline was as a gift for his son. Not really so that they can become a market leader, not really so that they can provide a good way in which people can travel, make travel affordable for India, since a very small population actually uses airline. They didn't really consider that, okay, let's come out with something so that the population is actually benefited with our service. In fact, the reason was it's for a gift for my son's birthday, as in Mallya's son's birthday. So that's one fundamental flaw that you would come across, the basic purpose for which it was set up. And then luxury for a 3-hour flight. Now if you consider Kingfisher, it wasn't given permission to take up international flights. It was mostly a domestic airline. So if you look at some long distances, say from Bangalore to Delhi, the distance is approximately about 3 hours, 2 hours 45 minutes. We can take it as 3 hours. For 3 hours, the service that you would be getting in fact was luxury in nature, meaning you would be paying a large amount of money for the tickets. And the reason Kingfisher would do that was because they would give you a lot of unnecessary stuff. I'll get to those unnecessary stuff in detail, but you can see there in the picture that the air hostess is in fact handing out a small goodie bag. As far as I remember, it contains a very crappy pair of red earphones or headphones, call it whatever. And that's something which they would hand out to every passenger who would come on board. One good thing about Kingfisher which I found pretty innovative is unlike other airlines, they didn't call the people who would buy their tickets as passengers, they would call them as guests. Now, that's something which is pretty nice. And that shows that you are treating them you're treating them with respect. The whole Atiti Devo Bhava and all that comes into consideration. I hope I spelled that right. I'm not very happy with my Hindi. But that's the object, that's the way in which they would call the passengers who would fly Kingfisher. And that's something which I found really, really nice about the airline. And the other things, when all the other airlines were reducing their costs, Kingfisher was accumulating its costs. So what were the reasons why they would accumulate their costs? If you remember in the previous slide, I said the goodie bags that they were offering, that's something which would be expensive for the airline. From their point of view, it's a cost for them. From our point of view, yes, we have paid for this through the tickets, but we would look at it as free. For the airline, this happens to be a cost. They can do without it. Okay. Other things which they would offer, Kingfisher would spend more and more. One of the places where they would spend a lot of money would be in hiring these air hostesses. Kingfisher would look out only for some of the best looking air hostesses who would actually be chosen in their airline. Now, how does that add to the cost? Do you have to pay more to these people who are a part of your airline? No, not really. Now, when you consider hiring people is actually a cost. You will spend a large amount of time and money in hiring them and in training them. So if you mention that, okay, our air hostess is supposed to be having the following features, physical features, you're being really, really specific. And finding people who would match this category would always be a challenge. That's where the cost would actually shoot up. In fact, if you fly an airline, you won't really be a repeat passenger or repeat customer because the air hostesses are good looking. I mean, if you're doing that, you have some serious psychological issues. But no one really flies an airline just because the air hostesses are good looking. So that's an unnecessary thing to spend on. And then expensive methods such as making everything business class. All the seats of Kingfisher happen to be business class, at least in the early days. So when you do that, when you call the fares, the services that you're selling as business class, everything else associated with it becomes expensive. If you look at the advertisements of British Airways or Etihad, they talk about the seats extending completely and you can actually sleep on the airline. Now, this facility is available only for the business class. The airline needs to spend a large amount of money in making these services available to their customers, and accordingly they would charge them for it. Now, when Kingfisher does the same, initially it becomes a very, very expensive thing to do. And most passengers don't care if you offer so many facilities when the journeys happen to be within the country. If you're looking at a transatlantic flight, which is nearly half a day, in that case you would actually expect all this because it's pretty tiring to actually get on an airline for such a long time. But within India, wherein if you leave now by say around 7:30 you would reach, it's 4:30 in my clock right now, 7:30 you would reach, you won't really want so many benefits being given to you. I mean, within 3 hours being pampered so much really doesn't seem worth it. If anyone wants to be pampered, our expectation is, okay, let's let it be like over an entire series or over an entire day or half a day, not really something that is crunched up into 3 hours. And then vans to ferry passengers from home to the airport. Not sure how many of you noticed, I think Kingfisher was the only company or the only customer to Maruti in buying the Versa brand of their cars, and that's something which they were using to ferry passengers from their home to the airport. Now, this cost would be taken up from the tickets, which the passengers would in fact pay for. But that becomes another cost. For any airline, their biggest cost would be managing the fuel. It is not the air hostess's salaries, not the pilot's salary, but in fact the fuel cost. Now, rather than worrying about the fuel cost of your airline, you're spending a large amount of money on these unnecessary services. For many years, no other airline would offer these services in India. wherein they would pick you up from the doorstep and then take you to the airport. Because other airlines were smart in not doing this. They know very well it's expensive. But Kingfisher, on the other hand, Malya being Malya, decided to take a chance and go ahead and do with this. And that resulted in more problems with its cost. If you look at the contrary to Air Deccan was extremely successful because it was a no-frills airline. You weren't given meals on board, you weren't given great quality seats, but customers didn't really care. The passengers didn't really care. From their point of view, it was okay, it gets me from point A to point B, I'm happy with that. I don't really want these unnecessary benefits. My experience in traveling won't really improve if the air hostess is good looking or not. It's not really something which most of us look out for. So, if you look at it there, that's also a large amount of money where Kingfisher couldn't manage and their costs escalated there. Then, how can we forget the banks that decided to go about giving Kingfisher loans despite the company not declaring profits even once in all of its years of operations? When I say not even declaring once, not even in their quarterly profits, have they in fact shown that okay, we've achieved a positive target? If you look at the financial reports of Kingfisher, all the values happen to be written in brackets. The end values happen to be in brackets. That shows that the company is actually going through loss even in the quarter. Not even at the end of the year, not even at the quarterly results has the company actually declared any profits. Despite not declaring profits, the banks continued to give them a great deal of cash. They were okay, they were expecting that it'll pick up, and even after 5-6 years of operations, the company's profits and revenue did not pick up. And now, this is the current position of these banks. SBI happens to be the largest lender here. Around 1,600 crores has been given by SBI. That's a very, very difficult sum to actually recover. In a company which is into service, especially airlines, you really can't do much when it comes to recovering the money which has already been given. Because airlines are, the airplanes at least are not really owned by Kingfisher. They all happen to be leased out. None of the airplanes of Kingfisher, in fact, can the banks actually hold, and they can say that okay, we'll sell it and we will recover our investment, we'll recover our loans. So that's not really possible. So far so good. As per the news reports, I've just heard the banks say they're doing everything they can in trying to recover the money which has been given to Kingfisher. But so far so good. It hasn't really worked out so well. And I'm hoping for the best that the banks are able to get their share in the loans back. And if any Kingfisher employee is watching this, I am so sorry for what you actually had to go through. You have my condolences, and the students whom I teach as well. We all feel sorry for you all to have been part of this institution. And I hope you get your salaries pretty soon. Thank you for watching this video. Do subscribe. And please do vote for Narendra Modi. Bye.